Hi, I'm Helen and I'm going to show you how I've made some reusable Christmas crackers. I wanted to avoid putting more paper that can't be recycled into landfill and having more plastic took that nobody wants in the crackers. So I decided to make my own fabric ones that can be reused year after year. And this is the finished article. Obviously you can use any fabric you want and decorate it however you want. But basically you'll have the cracker like this and it will pull and come apart, and inside there you can have whatever presents or crowns or jokes or whatever else you want, and then it can be reused from year to year. Now you can put a snap in if you want it to go bang. You can poke that through down the middle either end like that, or you can put some Velcro underneath on the top of this one and underneath here, so that you get that kind of ripping sound that Velcro gives when you tear it apart. Or you can have silent crackers, which actually, if you've got young children and animals, that can be quite a useful thing. So there's the finished item, and what I will put inside are things like soaps or bath bombs or candles, things that can be reused and not just going to be more plastic going to recycling, or unable, even worse, going to landfill. So to make these, the basic supplies you need, obviously you need a sewing machine and threads, but you need 2 pieces of fabric of your choice. I'm doing all of this in inches. I'm sorry to my friends in Europe that I'm not using centimetres, but it's because I do quilting, and American quilters, as you probably know, work in inches. So I'm used to working inches for all my craft things. So you need 2 pieces of fabric, one 15 inches by 24 inches and the other 15 inches by 18 inches. I serged all the way round to neaten the edges, which makes them slightly smaller, but you could, if you haven't got a serge, you can do a zigzag. That's absolutely fine. Okay, you also need 2 pieces of something to hold the roll stiff. These are going to be rolled up like so and going inside these fabric pieces to create a roll. So I decided to use some old laminated sheets that I'd got. Again, I'm saving plastic from going to landfill and reusing those, but you can use anything. Some people just use cardboard. I was worried that cardboard on its own would be crushed quite easily and end up meaning that the cracker couldn't be reused. So hence I've gone for this method. Lots of people use cardboard tubes or toilet roll tubes, whatever. The problem with that is finding 2 tubes that sit really snugly inside each other, so you don't have a gap, and when you look at the cracker on the table you can't tell that that is where it's going to be pulled from. So I like doing it like this so that I can get that nice snug fit and I haven't got to fiddle around looking for tubes that go inside each other. Okay, so to start off with then, we take the larger piece of fabric and we fold it in half along like here. Now this fabric hasn't got a right side, it's actually both sides are the same, so it doesn't matter whether it's right sides or not. If you've got a fabric that has a right and a wrong side, it should be folded right sides together at this point. So fold it in half, right sides together, and then you're going to sew along this edge, along that edge, and leave the bottom edge open. So you're just going to sew along those 2 edges and you will end up with something like this. And so as you can see, I can put my hand in there and it is just sewn on those edges. I then just snipped off the corners so that I don't get so much bulk when I turn it inside out, and then I would turn it round and turn it right side out and press out my corners, and then press it really well with a nice iron so it's nice and flat, and you should have something now like this, nice and flat. You're then going to measure 6 1/4 inches from this bottom seam. Now this seam here is where you've just sewn it up. You want the seam to be the inside, the bottom of the body of the cracker. This folded edge, which is the top, is the top of your ruffle, because you don't want a seam there, you want a nice fold there. So You measure from this seam going along the bottom up 6 1/4 inches and draw a line. I've done this with friction pen so I can just heat it and it will disappear. You can mark it however you like, whatever your preferred marking method is. And you then sew along that line. So you've now got this, which you then get your piece of stiffener, and I just smoothed off the edges of the stiffener because where this is laminated, if you leave these corners sharp, it actually makes it difficult to get in and catches the fabric. So then all you do is you slide the stiffener into this bottom pocket that you've created, like so, and there it is. It's slid into there nicely. Make sure it's right up snug against the top. And so if you've made sure you've pressed that well before you start, that really helps. Yep, so if you push that in there, you then should find that you've got a good bit at the bottom like that. What you're going to do next is you're going to sew that line up so that that stiffener is trapped inside that bottom pocket, and you're going to sew all the way along here. Okay, once you've sewn all the way along there, you are going to then measure, and here's your original line that was 6 1/4 inches from that seam. You're then going to draw 2 more lines. One is going to be 7 inches from that bottom seam, and one is going to be 7 1/4. So you've now got, this is your seam line where your stiffener is trapped inside this pocket, and then you've got another 3/4 of an inch and another 1/4 of an inch, and you draw the lines, and then you do a gathering stitch going down those 2 lines that are 1/4 of an inch apart. If you haven't got a gathering stitch setting on your machine, all a gathering stitch is a simple stitch, but making the stitch as long as you can, up to 4 1/2 or 5. So that once you've got that those 2 stitches in, what you then do is you get the bobbin threads, which are the threads underneath, and you gently hold those and start pushing the fabric up on those threads, working into the middle gently. Hold them firmly. You do need a nice strong polyester thread for this so the thread doesn't break, because if the thread breaks you have to start this bit again. And I would go from that end, and then I would do the same from this end. I would get my bottom 2 bobbin threads and start pushing up, pushing along, drawing that gather in. Now you don't have to gather, you could just do it with a ribbon, but I found this made a far neater finished thing because it actually keeps it all central. You gradually do that and allow yourself to gather and gather and gather and that will fold over. And what you'll end up with is something that looks like this. So this is all now gathered up tightly as you possibly can, and the stiffener starts to roll, and then you want to have it something like that. It's up to you really how tightly you roll it. Just get it so it looks the right sort of size cracker for what you want. You can have it smaller and narrower, or you can have it bigger and fatter. Obviously the narrower you have it, the more stiffener you've got. It's a little bit more durable, I would say. But you have it like that. Now how you fasten this to here is up to you. You can hot glue gun along here and just glue that. You could put a couple of staples in, because this is going to be the bottom of the cracker. You're not going to see this on the table. Or you could hand stitch that seam closed. It's entirely up to you. But once you've done that, then that's that end finished. You then basically repeat exactly the same process for the narrower one. And here's one I made earlier. Here's my gathering stitches. So again, I'll pull this all up and gather it, and then I will roll that round. And what I do before I actually decide where I'm going to close that, I make sure that these 2 are sitting nice and snugly inside each other, so that they're, pull that one tight like that, and just have a little play around until the top one is sitting really nice and snugly on the inner tube like that, and then that's where you're going to fasten that one, and obviously that's where you're going to fasten that one. And there you have it basically, and you will then end up with 2 pieces like this that you can decorate to your heart's content and put them together, and these are your reusable crackers that you can have every year with different things in, and ta-da!